Over the past month or so, I've had several people ask me how I add my Twitch logo and my Twitch address to my tanks. In this video, we are going to discuss how we can do that easily without having to create a mod. So, as most of you have seen on my stream, we have my beloved leaf blower. We have my logo and the Twitch address on the side of the tank. We are going to use two tools to do this. The first one being paint.net and the other one being 7-Zip. You're also going to need whatever graphics or images that you want to use. In my case, I used my logo. It might be an anime character for you. Might be somebody's picture. Might be a pinup girl like on the nose art on World War II planes. It could be any number of things, whatever you would like it to be. You're going to want to collect all those together. The next thing that we're going to look at is where do we get the necessary tools to do the job. Right. For paint.net, this is what we want. Fill that. We're going to go to getpaint.net, and you're going to want to use this link right here. You're going to click that. You're going to come down to download now, unless you want to use the Microsoft Store and pay for it. Paying for it supports the developer, but you can do it either way. You're going to click the icon, and then you're going to click the paint.net 5.0.11. Download now. I'm going to close the ad, and you should see this pop up allowing you to save the zip file somewhere. I'm not going to do it since I've already done it, and we're going to cancel for now. The next thing that you're going to want is 7-Zip, and this is 7-zip.org. This is how we're going to open up the package files. The package files are simply zip files that Wargaming in their infinite wisdom has deemed appropriate to name them package files, .pkg. It's still just a zip file. You're going to download the appropriate one and install it. Once you have all that accomplished, we can then get to working on our tank skins. So once you load up paint.net, this is what it's going to look like. If you don't have the layers over here, that's what these buttons are. We'll discuss that in a minute. So let's open up our File Explorer, getting a little ahead of ourselves here. So where do we get these source files for the tanks? They're in the games directory, World of Tanks. Most of you're going to find it in the C:/game/World of Tanks NA. It might be EU or RU or whatever server you're on. Doesn't really matter. The structure is still the same. And we're going to go to the res directory. And inside res, we're going to see packages. These are all the maps and various other features that show up in the World of Tanks games. And as we scroll all the way to the bottom, we're going to see these vehicle level. Vehicle levels correspond to tiers. So vehicle level 1 would be tier 1 tanks. Vehicle level 7, parts 1 and 2 would be tier 7 tanks. 1 through 10. Okay. You're going to use 7-zip to open each of these files. I've already got 7-zip loaded here, so let's pull this up. And we're in the C:games World of Tanks NA res packages directory. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we will find our vehicle files. We're going to use my beloved leaf blower as an example in this tutorial. So we will go into level 5 since it's a tier 5 tank. Click on it, click on vehicles. We'll see French. I want you to pay attention to this directory structure because it's important for later. And here is my leaf blower file. We click on that. You're going to see some directories and then some file names here. So we have _GMM, _AO files. None of these are appropriate for what we need. We are looking for _AM files. So we're going to back out of here. And we're going to go to part 2. Vehicles. Again, this part's important. So vehicles, French, and then our beloved leaf blower. We see our chassis _AM. We see the guns _AM. We see the hull _AM and the turret _AM. So the AM files are the ones that we are going to be editing no matter what tank we're looking at. I've gone ahead and extracted all the files and they're in my file explorer. So we're going to shut this down for now. And we're going to come back over here to documents, projects, World of Tanks. Here's vehicles. All right. And we're going to look at tier 5, part 2. That's where the AM files were. So we have vehicles, the country, and then the tank. Just to reiterate that, we're going to have the vehicles, the countries, and the tank. The reason it's important is when we go to save these files and then transfer them over to the game, they're going into the ResMods directory under the patch level that's running at the time, and then they're going to follow the same directory structure that we're seeing in here. So vehicles, the country, and the tank. So vehicles, countries, and tank. And when we go to save our files, we're going to save them in that same kind of directory structure. Right? So I have paint.net loaded here behind the file explorer. And we're going to take our hull, in the case of the leaf blower, we're going to take our hull and we're going to drag it into paint.net. And this is what the files look like once you load them. And you can start to make out components. So if we remember what the leaf blower looks like, we have this piece here, and we're going to see that it kind of slopes down. And this is fairly straight here at the top. We have this portion that comes down this way, and it's cut off here by the rear drive wheel, or sprocket. And our tracks run around. All right, the same thing, it's going to be opposite on this side. Okay. In this case, for the leaf blower, this is part of the hull, and the turret is up here, which is essentially the gun. Let's get back to the game. All right. Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our stream logo, our avatar, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to load in documents, and I have it all saved in the projects file. I'm going to use this one. And next, what we're going to do is we're going to select this. You notice that with the hash area back here, this is all transparent, so it doesn't show up. Anything with an actual color on it is going to show up. So we're going to select all of this, and we are going to copy. We're going to go back to our hull, and we are now going to paste into a new layer. The reason we're going to use layers for every one of our graphical or text components is so that we can manipulate them independently. So every time we add a graphic or a text to the screen, we're going to do it into a new layer. We don't want to expand the canvas. We want to keep it the same size. So that way we don't have to change anything to load it back into the game. All right. So now if we zoom out, we're going to see that our graphic is much, much bigger than the canvas of the actual game piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to this corner, and we're going to see that little circle. We're going to hold down the Shift key, and we're going to drag it smaller. Holding down the Shift key keeps everything in proportion. Then we're going to zoom out or zoom back in using our Control and the plus or the minus on the numeric keypad. So to zoom in, we're going to do the Control plus, and we can zoom in. And what we want to do now is continue to make this a little bit smaller. Somewhere in there. And you'll remember that this was the bottom. This is the bottom. This is the top of the hull. That's the top of the hull. This is the bottom of the hull. This is the bottom of the hull. So anything that's going to be on this side of the tank, we have to rotate so that it's the correct orientation. Put our logo in here. You'll notice that over here, we have layer 2. We're going to double click on that, and we're going to call this logo. And now what we want to do is we want to duplicate this layer. So we come down here to the bottom, and you're going to see, get this out of the way. You're going to see right down here, it's going to say duplicate layer when we highlight over it. And that has created another logo layer. And it is here, just on top of the original one. And you notice that as we change between the selected graphic and this little white thing right here, you'll notice how we have arrows on our hand. So we can rotate that around, get it where we want it. And now we can move it down. And roughly in the same spot as our original. Okay. If you don't have your layers box, up here at the top, you're going to see the third character in, third icon in, right up here by your X minimize, maximize, minimize button. And that's going to turn on and turn off your layers box. And this one here will do your colors over there. Now that we have our logo created, let's go in and add our text. Now this logo is still selected. You'll see the marching ants around it here. So we need to come up here to edit and deselect, or use Control D. We're going to add a new layer. And if we look down here, we'll see our colors. We have black as the foreground and white as the background. For this implementation of adding stuff, we want white text to make it show up better. So right here, you're going to see where it says swap colors. And you'll see those two swap. Come into text, or text tool. And you're going to want to set your font. So in this case, we're going to use our stream font, which is this one. And we're going to set our size to, let's say 18. And we're going to come up here somewhere and we're going to start typing in our address. Okay. So that's a pretty good size for me. You might have to make it smaller or larger depending on your stream address size. But that's pretty much appropriate. That's pretty much what we want. So we can click Finish here. We're going to hold down the space bar and you'll see my cursor turns into a hand, and we're going to drag this over this way. We want to take our layer that we just created and we want to duplicate it. So we have layer 4 here. Let's call this Twitch address. And we want to duplicate this. So we come down here to the duplicate layer button. Click that. Our layer is duplicated. So this right here is the Move Selected Pixels tool. You could hit that or M, and you'll see that our layer has been duplicated. We now need to zoom out, and you'll see that our marching ants are marching around. So we go up to a corner, and we're going to rotate this around. And then move it back to where we want it. So we're there. We're going to zoom in, Control plus on the numeric keypad. And we need to move it up just a tad. So it's somewhere right around there. That looks good to me. And so now we have just completed branding the leaf blower. If we want to take it a step further, we can add another layer. And into our text tool. And we can say let's make it all caps. Okay. That in there. Click Finish. And do our move. Right. And we want to position this probably about there. Now, you may want to leave this open for merit badges like your Reaper, the Masterclass, the Crucial Contribution, those types of things. In my case, I don't use them. And so I'm going to put in some text where I want it. And we can come in and do things like, let's add another layer. And let's call this that. We can take that. And again, we want to grab this, and we're going to zoom out so we can see what we're doing. And bring this back around. Down the space bar, we're going to drag this back over to the middle, and we are going to zoom in. Still a little off on our rotation. So we'll straighten it out, and we'll put that right in this area here. Maybe make it a tad smaller. Hold down the shift key, drag in the corners. Still don't think I have it. There we go. That looks better. So now that we have our graphics and our text all placed where we want them, we need to save this. And what you're going to want to do is save as. You're going to go out to your documents folder, and we want to create a directory called vehicles. And this should all be lowercase. Now we want to create a directory called French. And if you remember correctly with the leaf blower, let's put our structure back up here. We have F28 underscore 105 underscore lef 18b2. So now we go into the French directory and we want to create that same structure. So capital F28 underscore 105 underscore lowercase le fh 18 capital B 2. Right, there's that. And we want to drill into that one. And then this is where we're going to save our files. Now that we have it saved as a PDN file, which is the native file for Paint.net, we want to save it as a DDS file now. Remember, that's what we extracted out of the package files. And we're going to save as, and we're going to come down here to our type, and it's going to be a DDS or direct draw surface. Save. When this box comes up, the save configuration, we're going to leave it everything just as it is. We don't need to change anything here, so it's all defaults. Going to click OK. And this is the important thing here. We're going to leave it flattened. So we want to save this image as a flattened image. The DDS files do not have layers. So we need to flatten this image so that World of Tanks can read it. That is now saved. And we can now come into our directory here, and we can come to Documents, Projects, and we will see Vehicles. And in Vehicles, we have French. And in French, we have our leaf blower directory. And inside that, we have these two files. Well, what we're going to do at this point is we're going to copy this directory, I'm going to say copy. And we want to come over here to our directory or drive where the game is stored. In most cases, it's going to be the C drive. You're going to come to games and your World of Tanks directory. And before we went into the res directory for the packages, this time we're going to go into res mods. And in res mods, we're going to see the patch. If you don't see the patch, it's going to be whatever, you're going to have to create this directory, and it's going to be whatever patch you're on at the time. So at this point in time, we're on 1.22.1.0. And you're going to go into there. And if you're not running any mods at all, you won't see the vehicles here. So we're just going to paste it. And since it's already existing for me, but for the sake of this, we're going to change this file here. And we're going to replace all these things. All right. So we have that. We're now going to need to restart the game. At this point in time, what it's doing is it's loading all the res mods and comparing them against the actual game and seeing what needs to be changed. So we have our sharing love from above on that side and what are the noobs on that side. So you'll notice that this grate right here, it's kind of hard to see. So if I want to keep this on here, I'm probably going to make it a little bit smaller and move it forward, or maybe change love from above and put it on this side where it's a little flatter, and change the at what are the noobs and put it on this side. But that's all tweaking that you can do. And you can do this for any of the tanks that you have. Some of you have seen the Dickermax. It's a German tank here. And let's get to the Germans. And we'll see the Dickermax. So we created the pencil Dickermax. So it's a number 2 Ticonderoga pencil. It's an iconic pencil in the American school system because when you do standardized tests and you have to fill in all the little blips so that the machine can read it, they tell you to use a number 2 pencil. We have that there on the barrel, and we've added our little branding here on the underside of the barrel. Subtle, but it's there. We can come back in here and see our Dixon Ticonderoga number 2. All right, so we have the eraser, the ferrule, and then the barrel of the pencil, or the barrel of the gun. Now, that's not the only thing you can do. You can do things like the Cheeto. And for whatever reason, it doesn't show up in my garage, so I have to go here. And we had the Japanese Tier 6 tank destroyer, the Chi-2. And we want to view it in garage. And we have our Cheeto, Chi-2. with a bunch of Cheetos all over the tank. All right, so how did we accomplish this? Well, very similar to what we just did with the leaf blower, we are now going to do with the Cheeto. So we're going to go back into our paint.net, create a new file. Doesn't really matter. Doing that just to blank out the screen here. So we're going to come into our directory where we extracted all the files, go to vehicles, go to Japan, Cheeto. Oh, I picked the wrong directory. So that projects, World of Tanks, vehicles. It's a tier 6. So this is a case where the files that we need are in both part 1 and part 2. So we're going to go to part 1 first. Vehicles, Japan, Cheeto. And we're going to see our hull right here. So we're going to drag that and drop it into paint.net. And we're going to open the image. It's going to look like that. And we're going to go open the next one, which is projects, World of Tanks, vehicles, part 2. And in here, we need to go to Japan, Cheeto, and we're going to look for the turret. So there's the chassis. That's going to be the tracks and the drive wheels and suspension, that kind of thing. We have the gun right here. And we have our turret 1 and the turret 2. And we're going to choose the turret 1 since that's what I have. We're going to open that. All right. So we could do this simply like we did before, put our logo on it, put the text on it, but that's not always all that much fun. So I went ahead and found a very high resolution picture of Cheetos, the little cheesy snacks. And you want to get as high a resolution as possible if you're going to do something like this to make it look like it's got Cheetos on the tank. The higher the resolution, the better image you're going to get out of it. So now we're going to come in here and we're going to go back to our documents, into our projects, graphics, and we have this image here that we have. And these are what Cheetos look like. Now, on my screen, they look a little yellow. So we can come up here and we can adjust the hue and the saturation. We can make them a little more orangey since that's what they are. In reality, on my screen, that's about where they are in color. I'm going to take and click OK. Now, just like before, we want to come in here and select all. And we want to copy. We're going to go back to our turret. And we are going to paste this in as a new layer. And again, we want to keep the canvas size. And that might be a little big. And we can make it a little smaller. And we're going to hold down the shift key again and drag this down. All right, so we have that. So here's our Cheetos laid on top of our turret. But now we want to put Chester in. All right, so we're going to come up here. We're going to open, and we're going to grab our bag of Cheetos. And on the bag of Cheetos, we see Chester here. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up selecting him. We're going to start up here. And going to come around like this. Right. Once you have them selected, I'm going to what do we want to do? Let's cut this out, come back into our blank picture here, and we're going to paste as a layer. Keep the canvas size. Let's bring it down so that it fits. We have that. We're going to invert our selection. And then we're going to hit delete. Oh, we need to get rid of this background layer. Sorry about that. All right. So now, since we deleted all the white, we can then use our magic wand to select the red. And it's too much. So we're going to come up here and we're going to start to do this. And you'll see how it's deselecting portions of it. And we can delete that and come down here and do the same thing down here. Make sure it's not deleting something that we want to keep. All right, we can get rid of this. Come up here, get rid of that. Yep, get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Come over here, get rid of these portions here. We don't need that. That. Now, if we do the black, it's going to take out our nose, so we don't want that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. The yellow here. We can zoom in. You see just exactly what we're deleting. Pick this. A little more finite. And how much of this you actually want to do is up to you. And then you can go in and use the eraser tool. All right, so we're going to set our size up here. 30. That might be a little big. Let's do 10. And you'll see my tool right here. It looks like the little circle. And I'm going to hold down the mouse key and I'm just going to start erasing. I'm trying to follow the lines. We can get rid of all this extraneous stuff out here. Like this. How much of this you want to clean up is up to you. But the cleaner you make it, the better it's going to look on your tank. So spend some time. You can come in here and you can come up and erase like that. Get rid of all this. So this is how I went ahead and did. We're not going to spend the time to do it here, but we're going to open up this guy, and I already have it done. And we're going to close this out so we don't get it messed up. All right. And here's our Chester. Okay, so we're going to go into Chester. I cleaned them up pretty good. Could be better, but it's pretty decent. It's good enough for what we need. We're going to select him. And we're going to copy. We are going to go back to our hull. Actually, our turret, excuse me. We're going to go back to the turret. And we are going to deselect layer 2, which is our Cheetos. Let's call this Cheetos. Double click on it and we can name it. So we're going to deselect our Cheetos. And now we have to figure out where we want to put Chester. Well, I would like to put him right here and right here. So this is the left side of the tank, and this is the right side of the tank. So anything we put here is going to be standard orientation. Anything we put here is going to be upside down. So we've copied our Chester, and we are now going to paste him in as a new layer. Keeping our canvas size, we need to resize Chester. Down. Bring him back up. Notice that he's smaller. Here. So there's our Chester. And we're going to put him right up there. All right. Now, what else can we do to make him stand out just a little bit more? Well, in Paint.net, we have a drop shadow. And we can see here, we want to change this to black. Down here, zeros, and we have a black drop shadow. Let's change the angle of it to be down towards the bottom like that. And you might want it to be a little bigger. Right, we're slowly getting some shadow in down here. Hit OK. And now we're going to take and duplicate this layer so that we can put it up here. All right, Chester is now duplicated. Let's turn off the deselection. I kind of screwed that up, didn't I? All right, let's turn off the deselection. Nope. Let's go back and redo our drop shadow here. Let's get rid of the bounding box first. Let's do our drop shadow again. That way it's not going to be cut off by the box. Click OK. And now you'll see it's not cut off by the box. Right, we're now going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to grab our move tool. And we need to rotate this around. Put them up like that. We're going to want them there. Now, he's pointing the wrong direction. We want him to be pointing forward no matter what side we're on. So we're going to go to our layers. And we're going to flip horizontally and then move him into position. About there. Okay. So now we have that. And if we go back and turn on our Cheetos layer, you'll see this is what it looks like. So this is going to be our turret. So what we want to do is we want to save our file. Now, we have to go back and reference where we have to save this, because this is going to be Japan. It's not Japanese, it's Japan. We're going to create this folder, lowercase Japan, and then look at our 7-zip. And for Japan, go to here 6 vehicles, Japan, and it's J10 underscore chi underscore 2. Okay, come into here, create a directory. J10 underscore chi underscore 2. Save our file. Do a save as. Change it to surface here. Save that, flatten it. All right, so that takes care of the turret. Now let's come to the hull. We're going to do the same type of thing. We're going to come in here and copy this. Come back to our hull. I'm going to zoom out. And we're going to paste into a new layer. Keep the canvas size a little smaller. Just as long as we cover the entire screen there. All right, we're good there. We're going to deselect. Now we're going to hide this. And this is where we're going to put our text in. And we have to just figure out where we're going to put it. Since I've already done it, I know that I'm going to put text in here. And I'm going to put text in here. We're going to put the Cheetos logo here and the Cheetos logo here. And we're going to put our Scream logo back here. Okay. And when you do this, you have to do some trial and error because sometimes you're going to think that it's the correct orientation and you're going to have to go in and change the orientation. Or what you think is the outside is actually the inside of the tank. So you're actually pasting your graphic on the inside view of the tank and it really needs to be on the outside. So there's a little bit of trial and error on this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get our logo for Cheetos. We come into projects, graphics, and here's our logo. It's going to look like this. We're going to grab our magic wand tool and select. And it's selecting everything outside of the Cheetos that was white. And we're going to hit delete. And now we have it to be transparent background. We want to select all. Copy. Go back to our hull. And we're going to paste this in as a new layer. Keeping our canvas size, we have to resize this significantly. We're going to turn this around. I'm going to drag it into place. Let's zoom in. We need to make it a little bit smaller. So again, hold down the shift key, drag our points on the outside. We want to kind of center it in here. We're going to add a drop shadow. So let's get rid of the bounding box so we don't have that problem again. Add our drop shadow in. You can see where it is. You can change the angle of it if you wish. But that looks good to me. Right there. Hit OK. We're going to duplicate this layer again. If I hold down the space bar, you'll see my, right here, this changes to a hand. I can drag it this way. We're going to put the Cheetos logo up here. This is a machine gun right here. So we're going to make the Cheetos logo come up and around this machine gun. We're going to duplicate this layer. This is the Cheetos logo. Duplicate. So it's there. We can drag this down here. It's a little too big. So what we need to do now is make it smaller. So we find the marching ants and we drag it down. Is it small enough yet? Not quite. Still going to obscure the. We can drag the middle here, push it down. And it's going to look like something like that. That's good right there. Now we have our logos in. And moved it. Grab that. Get rid of our bounding box here. Hold down the shift key, move this back over here where we can work on it. And we want to put our logo in. And our logo is going to go here, except it has to be the opposite orientation of the Cheetos here. Right? So we're going to grab our logo, copy, come back into here. And you notice that all of these things that we're pasting in are above our Cheetos layer. That way they're on top of it, and you'll be able to see them with the Cheetos underneath it. We want to paste it in as a new layer. Keep the canvas size. Zoom out so we can see some bounding. All right, we're going to take and hold down our shift key, drag this down. Hold down the shift key, drag this down. Somewhere around there. We need to rotate this around. If you're not sure, you can always zoom in. We're close, not quite. Like that. And we're going to put this in here. And we can get rid of our bounding box. Add a drop shadow to this as well. Make it stand out. We want to change the direction of our drop shadow. Something like that will work. Okay. And that's that. Now, if you wanted to, you can add some text in here. Now, on the Cheeto, you have things that are right here that get added on, and things that are right here that get added on. That's what some of this stuff is out here. So like the chains and the ladder, there's a box that gets added in, and it gets added in right here. So if we're going to put our address in, we want our address to be fairly short right in this area on both sides. So again, we're going to create a layer. And this time we want it to be black so that it stands out against the Cheetos. And you're going to come in and click our text tool. That's a little long. So you can change the size of it if you would like. You can hold down the shift key and move back. It's actually highlighting it. And we can then change our text size to be, that might be a little small. Okay, somewhere in there. It's still a little big. Let's go ahead and change this. Get our bounding box in there. Hold down our shift key, grab this, make it a little smaller. And that would be perfect. Okay. Now we have that. Get rid of the bounding box. And we're going to duplicate that layer. So there it is. We now need to zoom out. We're going to rotate this around to the other side. Fine tune our rotation. Be good. All right, I like that. So let's turn back on our Cheetos layer. And we have that. Now we can do a file save as. We want to save it as our PDN file. And now we want to save it as our DDS file. And flat. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to come in here to our documents and projects file. It's in vehicles. We have Japanese with our files that we need, the DDS. It doesn't matter that these PDNs are in here. That's fine. Just go ahead and keep them there. That way, if you want to go back and change something, you can. And it'll load them up. And the PDN files will have the layers. The DDS files will not. So now I want to go back out. And I want to copy this. And we're going to go to our games. ResMods. That. And we're going to paste. It's going to ask us to replace. We're going to say yes. We're going to restart the game. Give it time to shut down. Start it back up again. Again, this is where it's loading in all the modifications that are made. And there's our Cheetos tank. Now you could go through and you could skin the drivetrain and you could skin the barrel. It's up to you, whatever you feel is necessary to do. But that little drop shadow just helps Chester and helps the logos stand out a little bit on the Cheetos that are making up the body of the tank. And we see our little logo back here, and it's backwards. So what I needed to do is when I flipped it over, and now I need to mirror that. So I need to flip it horizontal, and that will correct the APA 561 being backwards. Okay. But that's how you do it. So whatever you come up with on your own, I'd appreciate it if you would share it in my Discord. You can find it when I'm in stream. And we will see you next time. Thank you.